I think, early game, back-to-back, quick turnaround. We weren't great in the first quarter, and I thought the last three quarters we really stepped up, competed. I thought our second group came in and really set the tone.
Every significant sports scandal has a very particular point in its life cycle when music, the truth is ultimately too weighty to conceal. The basketball establishment has been involved in a well-planned, extremely annoying operation of gaslighting for weeks. Music, they met the fans' gazes. They made eye contact with the experts. They made an effort to persuade everyone that keeping Caitlin Clark on the bench was a clever, essential, and extremely advanced tactical move. They discussed the leadership of veterans. They discussed making payments. They discussed the intricate, unspoken regulations governing the U.S. national squad. However, anyone with a working eye and a rudimentary grasp of contemporary basketball geometry could see that it was a complete farce the entire time. It was an error. It was a startling mistake of skill. And at last, we've hit the tipping point. The dam has collapsed. Nate Tibbetts, the interim head coach of music, took the podium following Team USA's complete destruction of New Zealand. If you pay close attention to what he actually said, it is the closest thing to a formal admission of guilt you will ever hear from a national team coach, even though he attempted to wrap his remarks in coach talk and shield the delicate egos of the seasoned veterans. This news conference will be subjected to a brutal microscopic dissection. We will remove the political correctness, examine the official box score, and reveal the reasons behind the coaching staff's current predicament, which they created. We will demonstrate why Caitlin Clark is not only a starter, but also the indisputable cornerstone around which this entire team must be constructed. Now let's set the scenario. At last, Caitlin Clark is given the start. Although everyone in the basketball community is relieved, the first few minutes of the match versus New Zealand don't appear to be a smooth, well-oiled machine. The offense appears to be a little disorganized. It appears reluctant. Additionally, Nate Tippett discusses this particular sluggishness when he takes the microphone following the game.
And that's what you want, right? You want that consistency from group to group. The first group didn't have it, they didn't set the tone, but the second group came out and did a really good job.
Pay attention to the wording. The first quarter wasn't very good for us. Our second group really established the tone, in my opinion. Clickbait, musicians, and the mainstream media seized upon this comment right away. They attempted to portray it as a criticism of Caitlin Clark. They attempted to assert that Caitlin Clark's first start was a failure, according to the coach. Music, however, if you truly get basketball's X's and O's, you will see that Tibbetts isn't disparaging Caitlin Clark. He is unintentionally ignoring the formation of his own lineup. He is acknowledging a serious basic error in the way they are assigning their staff. You don't match the most deadly, music high-octane, pace-pushing point player in the sport's history with another ball-dominant, methodical, slow-paced point guard. However, the coaching staff of Team USA accomplished just that. Alongside Chelsea Gray, they started Caitlin Clark. Gray is a legend. Although she plays at an entirely different frequency, she is an incredible player. She is a meticulous, grinding, half-court floor general. Caitlin Clark is a blurry logo shooter, fast breaker, and transition pusher. You consciously create a tactical paradox when you place them on the floor together. Music, in a one-lane construction zone, you are requesting that a Ferrari follow a tractor. The systemic hierarchy requires Clark to yield to the veteran, even though she wants to accelerate the pace as soon as the ball leaves the hoop. She hesitates as a result. There is a compression of the spacing. Because the United States is willingly walking the ball up the floor, the New Zealand defense, which should be completely terrified music of the pace, is able to set up in the half-court with ease. Nate Tibbett is totally correct when he claims that the initial group lacked it and failed to set the tone. However, this isn't due to the players' lack of skill. It's due to a huge chemistry mistake committed by the coaching staff. By initiating Clark, they attempted to please both the public and the veterans. And as a result, they produced an awkward, incompatible starting five.
This tournament and just talking to Kara and our coaching staff it's not always easy for players to get into a rhythm when the coaches are messing with the lineups, and part of that is just
It was absent from the first group. They didn't establish the mood. However, the second group emerged and performed admirably. Music, let's examine this second squad that entered and purportedly came to the rescue. Angel Reese and Ryan Howard were among the players on the bench. Ryan Howard scored a ton of points and made 6 3-pointers. Angel re-in and took control of the glass right away. They had an amazing appearance. However, why did they appear so amazing? Did they create a brand new offense out of thin air? Not at all. Despite their awkward spacing, the beginning unit had just finished exhausted the New Zealand defense, which is why they looked amazing. Caitlin Clark's very presence on the floor functions like a gravitational black hole, even when she is made to play in a slow, methodical manner. On each possession, she dragged 2 defenders along. She made the guards from New Zealand explore innumerable screens with music. She sapped the opposition's mental and physical vitality. As a result, the defense was already struggling to stay afloat when the second unit entered the game. The foundation set by the starters was expertly exploited by the bench mob. The coaching staff is aware of this basic law of basketball physics. However, when a reporter confronted Tibbetts directly about the disjointed offense, it was the most incriminating moment of the entire press music conference and the comment that formally exposes the internal uncertainty of the coaching staff.
It was a dominant performance. I mean, I feel like, how come Caitlin Clark not at the podium yet? Like, she should have got player of the game or something. Even the first game that she went off in, she didn't get invited to the...
When coaches are fiddling with lineups, it might be difficult for players to get into a groove. You see, when the coaches are fiddling with the lineups, it's not always easy for the players to get into a rhythm. Seeing who collaborates well and who doesn't is a part of that. There it is, music interfering with the lineups, straight from the interim head coach's mouth. This is the major error. This is a confession of guilt. The WNBA season is just a few months away. The coaching staff freely acknowledges that they are treating the U.S. national team like a messy science experiment as the team gets ready for big international competitions. The lineups are being tampered with. You don't experiment with lineups to see what works when you have a generational talent like Caitlin Clark on your squad. She is not handled as a variable in a science fair project. You turn her into the system's unquestionable cornerstone. And you discover the 4 musicians who precisely match her vision, music, speed, and space. Caitlin Clark was never unprepared to begin. The coaching staff's fear of formally handing over the kingdom's keys is the error. They are afraid of disrupting the established order of veterans. Therefore, in the spirit of locker room diplomacy, they keep shuffling the deck and playing political games with the minutes and rotations, sacrificing offensive flow. The box score from this game serves as the final prosecutor in the case against the coaching staff, since Caitlin Clark's absolute domination just cannot be repressed, regardless of how much they tamper with the lineups and how awkward the structure they put in place around her. The idea that the initial unit was a failure is totally refuted. Caitlin Clark continued to play in a game when the coach freely acknowledged that the starter had trouble finding a rhythm. Even so, she managed a huge blowout. She received points for music. She provided 6 assists. And she accomplished it with a degree of hyper-efficiency that demonstrates how she is always improving her game to overcome global defensive strategies. She made 4 of her 4 two-point field goal tries, including a flawless one from inside the arc. She didn't worry when she was frantically run off the 3-point line by the New Zealand defense. She didn't make poor passes. She used her exceptional footwork to casually slip into the paint and knock down routine mid-range shots and floaters. She is evolving into a 3-tiered killer. Regardless of how awkward the first quarter appeared, you only need to glance at her plus-minus music rating to understand her actual impact on the game. She had an incredible bonus toward the end of the game. The United States scored more points than New Zealand when she was on the floor. Despite the coaches continually experimenting with incompatible lineups around her, she produced more positive influence than nearly every other player on the roster. Both the maths and the tape are truthful. The last and most annoying part of this whole media circus is brought about by this indisputable overpowering creation. The disdain that permeates the press room and beyond the hardwood.